Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Good morning, everyone. So we are going to start our lessons program on fundamentals of Theravada from the place where we stopped in the last semester. It has been a long time that we haven't done any classes, but I shall still continue from the place where we stopped. Last time we discussed about as the last lessons we discussed on the non-human position, how activities happen, how chitta rupas are functioning during a non-human position, and we had a thorough examination on that. Upon that, now we are going to start today to another two minor topics that are also related to chitta rupas. That is to say, how chitta rupas function during an intoxication, and also while salivating or drooling, sweating, tearing, and snot dripping. Because as the Theravadians claim, these phenomena is also related to the consciousness on certain occasions, not always, but on certain occasions. And this would also help us to understand the function or the role played by chitta rupas. Acting while being drunk and intoxicated. We know that the being loses his or her state of mind while being intoxicated. It can be due to alcohol, or it can be due to any drugs or any substance that affect the mind. So at that time, beings tend to perform unwholesome acts or weird activities that are inappropriate for a human being. That's the nature or the tendency of intoxication. Because when you lose the natural state of mind, it opens the gate towards lots of bad activities, and most of them are unwholesome. Then, because during a non-human possession, the person loses the control over his mind, and the entire body of the person is under the control of the possessor. Then during insanity, it's also a place where the being loses its state of mind, but at that time the person has no idea what is going on in his mind, and he'll be acting very weird. Then we have another occasion while we are asleep. During dreams, we do certain physical and verbal activities sometimes, and we have discussed about that. The activities done during sleeping are not capable of producing a rebirth, and during a non-human possession, the activities are not, the good and bad deeds done are not of the possessed, that is of the possessor. And during the intoxication, the formula is a bit different. The reality is different. If you go into you're going to explain on the board, while asleep. While asleep, the being does activities, actions are karma, but they cannot give rebirth. They cannot give rebirth, they can only give results during pati. And that's also being helped by other karmas, only when other karmas are supporting it. Then during a non-human possession, the possessed, the one who is being possessed, possessed does not accumulate any karma. Any karma for the acts done by the body. His mind is still working. He is not in a completely, not in a state which is devoid of mind. His mind is functioning, and the one who is being possessed is always a putujana being. So he is accumulating karmas for his chetanas that are occurring, manodvarika and panchadvarika chetanas, javana chetanas. Obviously he is accumulating karma, but that's not what is meant here. Here we are talking about the karmas accumulated due to the deeds done through the body and the mind, body and the speech. For example, if he goes and kills someone, if he shouts at someone, the possessed being is not accumulating any karma. It's the possessor who is getting the karma. So that's the difference here. But when someone does activities while asleep, he is accumulating karmas, but they cannot bring a rebirth. During an intoxication, the phenomenon is different. The intoxicated person accumulates all the karma. Accumulates the karma for actions what he does, and it is even can brings forth rebirth. It even can bring forth rebirth. So they are full-fledged karmas. So these are the three differences. How about the insanity? Insanity, according to Vinaya, he doesn't commit any offense. But I am not in a position to say whether he is accumulating karmas or not. Obviously his chittas are karmic chittas, because a person who is insane is always a putujana. But whether they can bring rebirth or not, it seems not. It seems they cannot. That's why the person is free from offenses in Vinaya. But that's not enough to exactly say whether they can bring rebirth or not. Because in dream also, while dreaming, those chittas are karmas, but they are not, they are not offenses. They don't come into the level of an offense. So insanity, I am not in a position to exactly explain that. And there is another state of mind called Vedanatta. Vedanatta means the person who is oppressed by severe pain, and he doesn't know what he's doing, and he doesn't normally feel other feelings. So these are the 5 stages that we need to discuss, but I have already discussed what happens during a sleep, while acting in a sleep, like while during dreams, and during a non-human possession, and then during the intoxication. Then say insanity and afflicted by severe pain, Vedanatta. These two I am not going to discuss about them, because I am not in a position to exactly say what is the mechanism of the consciousness at that time. Then the person who is intoxicated, even though he has lost the state of mind at that time, he is not free from the deeds. He will be accumulating all types of karmas. Even he could do anantariya karmas, the very heaviest grave karmas that can lead to a very devastating results. So then what is happening here? At that time the person loses the state of his mind, and then even though he lost the state of his mind to a certain extent, his chetana and all the mental activities mental factors are still active to the level that he could do acute karma, and he will be also responsible for all the activities that he is doing, and he is not free from exempt from the offenses in Vinaya as well. A person who is in an insane situation, he doesn't fall into any of the offenses. The insanity has 2 levels. Sometimes the person has lost some sort of sanity and he may be acting weirdly. The person who is free from offenses in Vinaya is a person who is in complete insanity, that he cannot recognize, he cannot differentiate extreme from fire, from sandalwood and also gold. So he will be treating all of them equally and he will not have that perception of differentiation, and his mind is in a completely a different stage. We are not talking about normal insanity, or we call psycho level. This is a entirely different level of insanity which we discuss in Vinaya. So at that time the person is not falling into any of the offenses for whatever activity he does. Even if he kills a man, he doesn't become a parajika, because he has no idea about what he is doing. Now the person who is intoxicated has a different phenomenon going in him. So the person is responsible for all the activities he does, and it even can lead to bad destinations, and even the heaviest karmas could be performed at that time. But one thing that I need to mention is, it seems like the gravity of the karma is weaker when one does it with intoxication. It seems, that is my own opinion, because when someone is intoxicated, he loses the level of his mind. It comes into a different stage. Though it's occupied by all more delusion and all the unwholesome qualities more than a person who is not intoxicated, but seems like it loses its stages. For example, if someone hits us during an intoxication, and while he comes into the normalcy, we are very much capable of giving him the pardon. We are very much capable of forgiving him. But if someone hits us while in the natural state of the mind, while he is not during an intoxication, at that time it's very difficult for us to forgive, because we know he had done it while he was in a natural state. So there has to be some kind of other defilement functioning. So this also shows that the karmas done during normal status seems to be powerful other than over the karmas done in an intoxicated period. Another way to define this is, now think about the animals. Animal killing a parental animal and a human killing one of his parents. It seems like in terms of the karma, both are the same. But it is very clearly mentioned that only humans can accumulate anantariya karmas by killing their parents, but not the animals. Animals are not capable of doing it. What is the reason? Because the human mind is stronger and sharper than the animal mind. That is because of the realm they are born into. So when someone is born into the animal realm, his the state of mind is lower, is in a lower stage than the human mind. So all the karmas that are done as an animal is lower, both the karmas, whether it's akusala or kusala karma. It seems like one would think the kusala karmas done by an animal is weaker than the kusala karmas done by a human. But it's applicable even to the unwholesome side. Why is that? The sharpness of the mind is higher in the human realm. So that sharpness shows that the awareness of the person's activity. Therefore, all the unwholesome deeds done by a human normally the unwholesome deeds done by a human is far greater, stronger and more ill-resulting than that of an animal. In the same way, a person who is not drunk, his mind is in a pure natural state, while the person who is in an intoxication, the influence of alcohol or influence of intoxicants, his mind or her mind has gone into a lower stage like that of an animal. So it seems like the karmas done during an intoxication, whether it's kusala or akusala, are weaker than the karmas done during the non-intoxicated periods. So that's an opinion that I have personally. I am of that opinion. So now we shall read the handout. Acting while being drunk and intoxicated. While being intoxicated, beings lose their natural state of mind. At that time, they tend to engage in inappropriate and unwholesome acts. Such verbal and physical acts are performed with chittaja rūpas that have viññati. It is important to understand the karmas done with consciousness while intoxicated. Previously, it was mentioned that acts done while asleep do not have the capacity to cause rebirth because they are weak due to associating a weak heart base and focusing on an unreal object imagined by the mind. The weakness of the consciousness during dreaming, while dreaming, is due to two reasons. At that time, the entire body has gone into a stage of inactiveness, which we call nirutsaha santabhava. As a result, the hadevattu, which becomes the base for the consciousness, is also weak. Therefore, the consciousness doesn't have the capacity to give a greater result like in other occasions. At the same time, is also focusing on an unreal object which is imagined by the mind. An unreal object imagined by the mind that is being presented to the mind due to the defilements or the hallucinations the one has. As a result of focusing on an unreal object which has been completely imagined or fabricated by the mind or synthesized by the mind is weaker to give a result as a rebirth vipaka, a patisandhi vipaka. Then those deeds can only give results during the pavatti, and even then they require the support of other karmas. It was also stated that during non-human possession, the possessed being does not accumulate any karma. Instead, the being who is possessing accumulates all the karma. That is also clear. However, deeds done during intoxication can result in both patisandhi vipaka and pavatti vipaka. The being who is intoxicated is responsible for all the deeds he or she performs. Even according to the Vinaya, a monk is not free from offences committed during intoxication. So, having lost that state of mind is not a reason. One can easily argue on this fact, saying that he is the one who got intoxicated deliberately, so he is responsible for all his activities. That is what normally in law we consider, because while you are driving having drunk, you are responsible for all the, because you took the decision to take a drink before driving and you decided to drive by yourself. So that is a very irresponsible decision one has taken. So, but for example, if someone intoxicates the person forcefully without his or her consent, maybe injecting a drug or maybe forcefully entering the intoxicants into the mouth or making him to swallow it, so even then the person can get intoxicated. Even at that time, if the person, it doesn't matter according to Buddhism how the person was intoxicated is irrelevant. How the person got intoxicated is irrelevant regarding the heaviness of the, deciding the heaviness of the karma. So therefore, it is regardless of the way he got intoxicated, the person is responsible for all the deeds that he or she is doing during an intoxication, and even in Vinaya, the person is not free from offences. And this gives a very good indication if one is free from offences during in Vinaya standards, it's an indication that the person is not accumulating the karmas. But that's not a standard way criteria to decide on that, because there can be various reasons why a person is exempt from the offences. There can be various reasons. So, but it is an indicator. It can be a slight indicator to show that the karmas done during an intoxication could result in patisandhi and pavatti vipaka. Then we move into another topic, salivating, drooling. Then sweating, tearing up, and then snot dripping. Or you can call sniffling. The snot is coming out of the nose. So these three, the substances related to these are saliva, then sweat, tears, and snot. In Pali, the word terminologies would be kelo. Sweat is sedo. Tears are assu. Then snot is singanika. According to Visuddhimagga, these four substances, these four liquid substances, bodily liquids, are made out of two types of rūpas, Uttuja and Chittaja. Uttuja and Chittaja. So if these, now scientifically we know they are produced in various places of the body. According to the tradition, if they are produced due to some weather conditions like getting exposed to heat or some other condition, then if these substances are arising, they are considered uttuja at that time. But if they are seen occurring or happening due to the change of the mind, at that time they are considered as chittaja. They are produced by the chitta. I don't know whether they were aware of these places that produces these substances at 2000 years ago, but somehow as it is obvious they starts to ooze or appear while our consciousness has changed. So they have attributed, the Theravadins have attributed them to as things that are produced by the consciousness. So they are chittaja on some occasions. Now we shall go into discuss about them. First we'll read the first paragraph. In the Visuddhimagga, it is mentioned that four bodily fluids, saliva, sweat, tears and snot, are made up of both chittaja and uttuja kalapas. They are considered uttuja when generated in the body due to exposure to heat, such as from the sun and from the fire. And chittaja when arising due to changes in the mind. So we will talk about one each, one at a time, all four. So they all are uttuja and chittaja. Now salivating or drooling we call. So it's a biological process. Drooling is a biological process that is required, that is vital for the food digestion. So it's a part of the digestive system. This drooling is necessary for the food to digest and also for us to chew the food properly in our mouth, and to say, because it's only when it is connected with saliva it can digest properly. Then it's a biological process that happens even while we are not aware of that. It's a natural process going on. At that time we have to consider it is something uttuja, produced by the heat or coldness. One can easily argue on this point because breathing is also a biological process. If breathing, but still according to Theravada, breathing is produced by the consciousness. Why is that? Because this mechanism happens only while we are alive. In the same way, one could argue drooling is a process that is all these, even for all of them we can argue on in that regard, that all of them could be called chittaja because they are happening only while we are alive. One can easily bring that argument, but I don't go into that argument because that can lead to a lot of other opinions as well. So therefore, if something is happening naturally, I label it under uttuja. So as a biological process, when the saliva is drooling, that's a uttuja process going on. Salivation is a biological process vital for digestion. Therefore, it is clearly that saliva is made up of Utuja Rupas. Salivation also occurs when seeing tasty food as a result of craving. This phenomenon arises due to Lobha Mula Chittas. Yes, when we see tasty food or food that we like, we start to drool or salivate. That's also a natural process that everyone can understand. Theravadians believe that Arahants do not salivate at the sight of food because they have completely abandoned craving. Now there's a very nice story happened during the reign of King Vasamba. He brought a monk into his palace, who was renowned to be an Arahant, and he just wanted to check him. So he invited him to sit on the lion's throne, king's seat, and he made a sour dish in front of the Thera. Due to the sight of seeing this sour dish, he knew it was sour, and the Thera felt it. Felt it means we know how it is, how the feeling when we see a sour dish is being made. Then he started to salivate, and the king, while making the dish, was secretly, like time to time, occasionally looking at the Thera's mouth. And when he saw the Thera swallowed the saliva because of salivation, then the king came to the conclusion that the Thera is not an Arahant. It's a very nice story. So it shows that seeing even a very tasty food that can produce strong sensations, Arahant still doesn't salivate. But as a biological process, it has to come out. While he is eating, the saliva would be there to digest the food, but it would not ooze excessively like in a dog, or like what happens to us while seeing food. So King Vasamba once invited a Thera who was reputed to be an Arahant to his palace and prepared a sour salad in front of him. When the Thera salivated, the king concluded that the Thera was not an Arahant, as Arahants have entirely abandoned craving and are not enthusiastic even about divinely flavored food. Because sort of an enthusiasm is going on, we have an urge to eat it. That's why saliva is coming out. Normally it happens when we are attached to the food that we like. If we are going to eat normal food that we are not much interested in, the salivation is not very obvious. While working, now sweating. Now it's also obvious to us, while we work hard physically, we sweat. And that's an indicator, that's a very good example of sweat arising due to Uttu processes, due to heat. And then when exposed to sunlight or when exposed to heat, and also when our heat of the body increases due to biological processes or due to a virus, sometimes we do sweat. And those sweat is produced by our Utuja Rupas. Then sometimes it's also clear when we are afraid, when we are frightened due to a reason, we start to sweat. Sometimes due to excessive doubt and extreme lust, people start to sweat. And these have to be, according to Theravada standards, that sweat is Chittaja. Produced by mind. Mostly unwholesome consciousnesses produce this sweat. While working hard physically, when the atmospheric temperature rises, or when the body temperature increases due to biological phenomena, beings sweat. In these instances, sweat is considered an Utuja Rūpa. Beings also sweat when frightened or struck by sorrow. At these times, sweat is also considered Chittaja. Sweat is considered Chittaja. Additionally, beings may sweat due to excessive doubt or strong lust, which are also examples of sweating caused by consciousness. For instance, when the king Makadeva in the Jataka story, he asked his barber to tell him when he see the first white hair in his head. And one day the barber asked for permission and removed the hair from his king's head and placed it on his hand. Seeing the white hair, he felt that old age has taken over. Now his youth has gone. Then he considered Uttamanga Ruhamai, he uttered Uttamanga Ruhamai, Yang Imejata Vayohara, Patubhuta Devaduta, Pabbajja Samayo Mama. So the white hair has appeared, which is like a sign, a Devaduta to my, that I am getting closer to my death and my youth is finished, has finished. Then he considered it is time for me to ordain. A strong sense of urgency arose in him. Normally the sense of urgency is attributed to wisdom. In the ultimate sense, it represents wisdom. But this sense of urgency, a strong sense of urgency, could lead to unwholesome fear as well. And it is mentioned in the book that strong heat, a very excessive heat arose in the king's body, even to the level that his clothes became wet, that because of sweat. So this is a good example how the body is reacting and chittas are producing sweat according to Theravada. For instance, when King Makadeva's barber showed him his white hair, the hair string, the king was struck by a sense of urgency. Although this urgency is wisdom in the ultimate sense, it sometimes leads to unwholesome fear. Consequently, the king began to sweat profusely, even to the point of wetting his clothes. Then comes tearing up. We tear up when our eyes are exposed to smoke or dust, or while cutting onions. In these cases, tears are considered utuja rupas because they are happening due to a natural phenomena which doesn't involve the consciousness. But at the same time, when we are sad, we tear up. When we are emotional, we tear up. So at that time, tears are considered to have produced by consciousness. However, people also tear up when struck by strong sorrow or excessive happiness. Even on occasions where beings are excessively happy, they tear up. In these situations, dosamula chittas and lobamula chittas produce tears. Some claim that tears could come out or appear due to excessive wholesome happiness as well. I'm not in a position to exactly differentiate because to my experience sometimes on such occasions a slight sorrow overcomes the happiness and can cause the tearing up. But some do claim that with very pure mind, tears can come up in their eyes, or their eyes could be welled with tears. So maybe they are true due to excessive happiness, wholesome happiness, even tears may appear. But I am not in a position to exactly say, so I don't include it here. Then people catch colds when exposed to cold weather or dust, resulting runny noses and dripping snot. So now we are coming into the snot because it's also obvious due to biological conditions or exposed to certain environmental conditions, we catch colds and we get runny noses. Then as a result, snot starts to come out, and these are examples of snot made out of utuja rupas. Then this type of snot is caused by utu. When crying due to excessive sorrow, both tears and snot starts to drip. Tears starts to flow, and we start to get snot as well, drip snot as well. This snot is caused by dosamula chittas. So according to Theravada standards. So therefore, if any of them are appearing due to the change of consciousness, we attribute them to the chittaja rupas. Or the consciousness is responsible for their arising. Then although saliva, sweat, tears and snot can be produced by both utu and chitta, once these substances leave the body, they are always constituted of utuja rupas, because chittaja rupas cannot be found outside of the body of a living being. So we concluded two topics today: acting while being drunk and intoxicated. So the karmas, at that time the beings do karmas with chittaja rupas together with viññati, and those karmas are full-fledged karmas, though they seems to be lower in the quality or the intensity than karmas that are done during non-intoxicated periods. And then salivation, saliva, sweat, tears and snot could also be produced by chitta, and they may be constituted of chittaja rupas. But once they leave the body, they turn into uttaja rupas, and also while inside the body, they could be produced by uttaja rupas as well. So these are the two topics that I would like to discuss related to chittaja. There's nothing much very deep to understand in it, but this is an expansion of the lesson of chittaja rupa. So next day I'm going to talk about, again I'm going to touch upon some breathing, and then emission of semen, and then move into other arenas of the chittaja rupa. So I give the opportunity to ask questions.
May I ask my question?
Yes, sure.
I have a very simple question. It is desire or urge to be intoxicated. My question is that desire is due to unwholesome resultants. Because I am asking so, I have read one monk, very powerful one, who later became a noble one and who became a head of a section, Akatta, Tejo Udata Kusalana Akatta, that name was Sagatha Tejo. He was going begging foods and people, because one of the action he did, people was very happy and people offered him something, I guess it's kapotika or something like the intoxicated drinks, fermented one. He drank them and he fell down on a place that is in Pali also, Tokam Tirtha, Sati Visarjitta Sankaratani Pati. Now, writing a comment on this commentary, the personal one Bhikku one monk has written is due to past karma. That is why I asked urge or desire to be inaugurated or intoxicated is past karma.
I'm not sure about that, because it's the desire or the decision is taken by a Javana Chitta, and Javana Chittas cannot be resultants unless it is the Phala Chittas. So it was a decision that he took out of delusion. Yes, truly he later became one of the great disciples, and he is called Sagata Mahatero. And after he subdued the serpent, very famous subsiding of the suppression of the serpent, people were impressed by his psychic powers, and they offered him kapotika drink, and he took them, and he kept on taking the drinks, and in the end he fell on some rubbish place where rubbish was gathered, and then Buddha saw him lying down on the road, beside the road, and he asked the monks to collect him and take him to the monastery. And even in the monastery, when he was made to lie down in front of the Buddha, unconsciously, means like without any awareness, he just turned himself and put the legs towards the Buddha, and then Buddha was asking, how is this, can you even imagine that this is the person who subdued the Naga? And he elaborated the ill results of being intoxicated. So anyway, later on he went on to become one of the great disciples in our sasana. So maybe that was the reason that the monk has mentioned, has attributed his decision to get intoxicated to a past karma in order to save him from his shameful behavior. But for me, that was a decision, that is a wrong decision he has taken. Just because the person would become a Mahasavaka in the last life, it doesn't mean that he will not take any wrong decisions. For example, Angulimala was killing and was a serial rogue or a killer, and eventually he became one of the greatest arahants in our sasana. So I don't think that in that case it was, yes, there can be some influence of akusala karmas, so he would eventually be ashamed in front of the Buddha, and also his name was written in the books, and as long as this sasana remains, as long as the Vinaya Pitaka remains, his name will be said on this infamous activity. Therefore, I don't think that because decisions that we take are due to ayoniso manasikara. It's not because of past karmas. But past karmas may have an influence. Like for example, the third parajika rule. When the monks committed suicide, the Buddha saw that the past karma was influencing them to make such a wrong decision. But it didn't appear as a result of the past karma. Past karmas could influence our mind. The same thing happened to Bodhisattva while he was doing a self-mortification. He had to go into astray and pursue a wrong path for 6 years, while other bodhisattvas were doing the mortification period just for a few months or maybe for a week. The longest self-mortification period is recorded by the Buddha Dipankara, other than our bodhisattva, that is 10 months. That is 10 months. Something it's almost 1/7 of our bodhisattva's period. So he mentioned that the akusala karma of insulting Kassapa Buddha or looking down upon him was the reason that he was unable to recognize the correct path for 6 years, even though he had accumulated all these merits and practiced throughout the 4 Asankheyas and 100,000 eons, Mahakappas. So yes, past karmas could influence our decisions. It's possible and is very clearly mentioned in the text. There are ample of examples for that. But the decision one takes to get intoxicated is not always attributed to past karmas. For me, mainly, it is the ayoniso manasikara that is functioning. Because even though the person has such past karmas, after one becomes a noble being, he would never ever take the decision of getting intoxicated. It would never happen because that type of ayoniso manasikara would never occur in a noble being. Considering getting intoxicated is okay or fine. So I personally believe the Sagata Thera story was due to his ayoniso manasikara, unwise attention. He took a wrong decision over there.
May I have a question?
Sure, go ahead.
You, Patrioti, and all who are my greatest Dhamma teachers as well as Kalyan. So I entered the Sasana as a Samanera yesterday, and now my status is actually the Samanera.
Oh, really?
Living in Venerable Sumatipana, Anusmana, Bhana, Asapuri.
Okay. So how could I call you? What is your name? New name?
New name is Alagoda Kusaladam.
Okay, Venerable Kusaladam. You are in a Samanera. So very happy to hear this news. Okay. Sadhu, sadhu.
This is the temporary ordination and I stay like this unless my life ends before that until the end of the Vatsana.
Oh, that's great. So 3 months. 3 months.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I wish you all the best in your Samanera life. 3 months retreat. Yeah.
Much merits to you, sir.
Okay.
So actually,
So go ahead also.
today's lecture was very clear and I had the time to read the note also in advance. So I don't have any questions regarding today's lecture. And only thing is I want to inform you this, and I want to wish that I can continue to have your advice till I live in this world. Thank you.
Sadhu, sadhu. So,
Yeah,
it's a very good decision that you took because temporary ordination. There's nothing called a temporary or permanent ordination in Sasana. When you become a monk, you are a Samanera or a monk. There's no difference in that. Only thing that the person has a resolution that I will go back to my household life after this much of period. It is mentioned in Apadana Pali, one Thera in one of his past lives ordained temporarily in order to settle a quarrel between his relatives. In order to settle a quarrel between the relatives, he had to go for a temporary ordination for 1 month, if I remember, 1 month or 2 weeks. So then that karma helped him to be born in Sugati realms for a considerably long time, and that helped him to attain Arahantship in a Buddha Sasana. So it's very highly encouraged from our side because to get the taste in monk life, to experience what monk life is, it is a completely different life from the lay life, and even from the appearance, from the clothes, and from the mindset, we go into a completely different stage, and that experience is mind-blowing and also life-changing in people. And we see this in Burma when most of the men had ordained at a certain stage of their life, and that have made them very closer to our sasana. So then people feel very connected with the sasana because and feel the monks very strongly, and because they themselves have experienced this monk life, and they know the real stages and real difficulties and challenges, and also the nature of the monk life, and they understand monks better than other people. And when it happens as an entire country, the social consciousness, awareness about monks is very much higher in Burma than in Sri Lanka. In Sri Lanka, people always look for the faults of monks. They always, whatever the monks do, whether how much great they have done, they always try to see the loop of faults and try to elaborate such things, because monks are themselves are human beings, and also you cannot satisfy everyone in the world because people have various opinions. So, but they start to appreciate the monks from the monk side, because they can have a better perspective about the monk life from a different angle. For example, we can look at the president as a citizen, and you know the hardship of a president as a president. These are completely two different scenarios. So only a person who has been a president knows the difficulties of a president. But the people who are normal citizens, they think that the entire country can be governed as they think, but it's completely different. So that's why especially in, I think one of the reasons that in United States they have a special place for presidents, the ex-presidents, because they are the ones who know the burden of this role. So likewise, understanding monk life from a lay perspective and understanding the monk life from monk's perspective is completely different. So what happens is, when one gets into the monk robes and at least spend few days in robes, but you are spending three months, that is a considerably long period, and so this gives a complete different perspective and gives so much insights about the sasana as well. In Burma, to finally conclude, Burma, every government servant can have a 1 month leave with salary for temporal ordination. So that much encouragement has been set up in Burmese culture and the Burmese government as well. So it's very nice that you took such a bold decision and to breaking the barriers in our society and try to get that experience. So I wish you all the best, and may you be able to complete this 3-month retreat as a Samanera and get the best exposure into the monk life.
Sadhu. My thanks to you, sir.
Okay, sadhu.
I have a question. Please answer it appropriate for this season. During the first time I joined the lecture, so many this was addressed in past lectures. When the mind is in dreaming state, I have heard it can have access to our past experiences. Sometimes potential future happening or even past life experiences. Is it possible for someone to have access to Santana or the repository of the karma, according to Theravada's explanation of the working of the mind? My second question is, according to the Theravada, through meditation, it is possible to access past life experiences, but at the same time, I believe Theravada says future happening are dependent on the past karma and the current ongoing karma we do. So if we stop doing karma by achieving karma by achieving higher state of mind, would our past karma still give vipaka? Or is there a way to reflect on any pending karma from the past and cancel them out by doing good karma?
First time, oh, that's maybe because our lectures are mostly, because we have done, I think, almost closer to 100 lectures now. So we are going on a sequence and in an order. So I have done the basic stuff in topics related to Paramattha, around 29-30 topics, and now we are in the Rūpa chapter. So I highly recommend, if you are interested in following this, go from the beginning. And they can be found in the playlist of the YouTube. And if you can speak Sinhalese, yes, there is a Sinhalese course going under the name of Theravada Siddhanta. Yes, dreaming. Some parts of the questions were missing, like I couldn't hear very clearly. But anyway, yes, according to Theravada teachings, you can experience, you can recall the past experiences. What you have done, or the objects that you encountered in the past means within this life, and very rarely you may get signs about what is going to happen in future. But past life experiences, yes, you may have such experience, is possible, but how to guarantee that, how to verify that, it's a problem unless you have seen your past life through meditation. Then yes, that's the function of the consciousness. The consciousness has a weird phenomena, it has a weird capacities. Because even recalling something that has already happened is a weird phenomenon. Some Buddhist sects believe that as we can recall the past, that's an indicator or a reason to believe that the past is still existing. Sarvastivadians had that idea. But according to Theravada, consciousness has that weird phenomenon of recalling the past that is already gone. And also it has the capacity of recalling the future, possible future that is pending or that may come, that may follow. So it's a function of the consciousness. It's an unexplainable capacity of the consciousness. For us, for some, it seems like the object has to be existing in order to recall or know about it. Like eye consciousness cannot see something that is not existing, or something that is beyond the limit of the eye. Therefore, but according to Theravada, the consciousness, the mind consciousness, mind consciousness has the capacity to recall the past and all the future, sometimes the future, and think about the present as well. And when it is in the dream state, the entire mechanism changes, and sometimes, most of the times, we see past events that we encountered, and very rarely one may get signs about the future as well. Then about the future, future is future decided by past karma and the present karma. Not entirely. It's a partial thing. There are many reasons, many ways the future is conditioned. The natural phenomena is going on. There are 5 phenomena that governs the entire world. Utuniyama, the weather conditions or the environmental conditions. Bijaniyama, that is related to trees actually. Trees yield similar fruits and fruits related to its species, and they can only produce similar species as well. When I mean species, I refer to trees. Then Chitta Niyama, the functioning of the Chitta, Karma Niyama, how karma is functioning, Dhamma Niyama, all the other causalities. So future is not only decided by past karma and present karma. It's not only decided now, for example, our appearances are very resembling to appearance. That is because of, even though we have done various karmas in the past, we cannot overcome that influence of our parents into our body. That's impossible. So that is a part of the Dhamma Niyama. And whether the person, regardless of the person's unwholesome merits, every bird can fly. The birth of bird is due to unwholesome karma, but their capacity to fly is something that they possess by due to be born in that realm, among those species. So there are many reasons that govern the nature of the life, and they are always influencing and contributing to the future as well. It's not only karma. Then, so if one takes that the future is based on the present and past karma, it's a wrong idea actually. It doesn't exist. It never exists in Theravada, and Theravada never advocates such thing. There are many other reasons, many other causes which mold our future. And then, if you are then the next question comes based on the assumption that the future is based on present and past karma. So that assumption is not valid in Theravada. So the next question is not valid actually. But if I just go to the part of the question and say, if someone doesn't do karmas and prevent doing karma, it is impossible. You cannot do that, because if you have listened, you may be able to understand this in my past lectures, which I have clearly explained. A person who has not eradicated defilements and not eradicated craving and delusion cannot prevent the accumulation of karmas. Because when you are doing a certain activity with javana chittas, as long as the delusion is influencing them, because we are not free from delusion in terms of, because we have not eradicated it. Even though our wholesome minds don't have delusion, that has been influenced by delusion and influenced by the craving. So when a certain karma chitta or certain powerful chitta is influenced by craving and delusion, it's impossible that you prevent the karma, accumulation of karma. It will be done. It will happen. So only way to stop it is by becoming an arahant. You cut the delusion and remove the craving, actions will still be done without generating any karma. So that question, the second question, is based on different fundamentals, not based on future Theravada fundamentals. I think your question was if the future is based on past karma and the present karma, which is not a Theravadic fundamental. If it is so, then if you stop doing the present karma, is the past karma is working and the entire future is decided on the past karma. So it doesn't have any basis in Theravada tradition, because future is not only decided by the past karma and present karma. There are many phenomena governing on this. So I have touched upon certain points in my past lectures. If you can listen to them, you will have a better picture on that. And to frankly say, you cannot prevent karma from happening unless you become an arahant. And past karmas do influence the future. It's an obvious thing. Our present karmas also decide our future. It's not only the karma of that mysterious realm that is functioning. For example, if I work hard and become a rich person, that is not because of my past karma. Past karma may have had an influence on that, but it's mainly solely because of my present effort. Present karma means present effort at that time. If someone doesn't study and fail an exam and leads to misery, that's because of his misbehaviors or not doing the proper thing at the proper time. That's his wrong judgment led into this misery, not because of past karma. So the realm of karma is very wide, and it's not only because when we see the karma, we think about the mysterious effect of karma. You do something and mysteriously in future something weird happened that cannot be explained under the conditions at hand, and so we attribute to the past karma. Maybe it is due to a past karma that I have done, good or bad. So therefore you cannot stop, briefly saying about that statement, you cannot stop karma being accumulated as long as your delusion and craving is not eradicated. Okay, I think the questions are done. So we'll conclude this lecture and hope you enjoyed it. So next week we are going to talk about breathing and then move on to another topic. Wish you all the best till now. Till then, may this merit helps you to attain all your sublime wishes and finally the nirvana. Buddha sasanang chirantittatu, Buddha sasanang chirantittatu, Buddha sasanang chirantittatu, sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.